Hello, on August 9, 1999, in Anhai Town, Xinjiang City, Fujian Province, China, a particularly heinous murder case took place. The deputy general manager of the Hengan Group, Shijie, along with his wife and two beautiful daughters, were brutally murdered in their own home. Even more bizarre, just a few months prior, his eldest son had also passed away. Due to the severity of the case, the Fujian Provincial Public Security Bureau and the Xinjiang City Public Security Bureau quickly assembled an investigation team of more than 60 officers to solve the crime. They traveled across 16 provinces, 36 counties, covering over 40,000 kilometers, interviewing more than 10,000 people, investigating nearly 1,000 leads. The Hengan Group even offered a reward of 1.2 million yuan to capture the murderer. However, despite all efforts, there was no breakthrough. Just as the police were at a standstill, something unexpected happened. The murderer revealed himself. What exactly transpired that year? Let's dive into the story. At 4:40 p.m. on August 9, 1999, the Xinjiang 110 emergency hotline received a report about a murder at the Hengan residential complex, where billionaire Wu Shijie's family resided. The caller was Wu's sister-in-law, Xia Lianying. She stated that around 11 a.m., she had called her sister to invite her family to dinner, but no one answered. She didn't think much of it and planned to call back later. By 4 p.m., still unable to reach anyone, she began to worry. It was understandable if her brother-in-law was too busy to answer, but why was her sister also unreachable? Even the two girls' phones were out of contact. Realizing something was wrong, Xia Lianying rushed to her sister's house. She knocked repeatedly with no response, so she used a spare key to enter. As soon as she stepped inside, a strong smell of gas filled the air. Her first reaction was that the family might have suffered from gas poisoning. She quickly opened the windows and ran into the rooms, only to discover the gruesome sight of her sister's entire family murdered. Panicked, she immediately called the police. Upon investigating the crime scene, the police found all 4 victims tied up, their eyes and mouths sealed with clear adhesive tape. Preliminary forensic analysis revealed that Xia Xiaofan and her 2 daughters had been strangled to death, while Wu Shijie had 3 injuries on his neck and died from hemorrhagic shock. His daughter-in-law, Yang Mian, was fortunate to have been out at the time and thus survived. Due to the high-profile nature of the case and Wu Shijie's special status, the Fujian Provincial Public Security Bureau and the Xinjiang City Public Security Bureau swiftly formed a specialized task force, with over 60 officers dedicated to solving the case. However, the police did not expect the investigation to be this difficult. Since the victim's family refused an autopsy, the actual cause of death could not be confirmed immediately. Although multiple fingerprints were found at the scene, China at that time lacked a comprehensive fingerprint database, so investigators could only manually compare and eliminate suspects one by one. The most urgent task was to determine the nature of the case. Was it a crime of personal revenge or a crime of passion? Based on the fact that the murderer brought a knife and adhesive tape and that the crime scene was rummaged through, it seemed like a premeditated robbery. But strangely, although some areas appeared ransacked, nothing significant was stolen, and even tens of thousands of yuan in the bedroom remained untouched. The killer had brutally murdered 4 people, but took only a small amount of valuables. This was highly illogical. Could it be that the murderer staged a robbery to conceal an act of revenge? At this point, forensic experts provided the police with a crucial lead. The autopsy report indicated that Xia Xiaofan and her daughters were killed around 10 a.m. on August 9th, while the last victim, Wu Shijie, was murdered at approximately 12:30 p.m. This meant the killer had remained at the scene for nearly 2 hours. Why did he stay for so long? Another police team started investigating Wu Shijie's social connections. They discovered that although Wu was one of the founders of Hengan Group, he was known as a humble and well-respected businessman with no known enemies. However, the company's director revealed something unusual. Wu had been frequently visiting a hotel to meet someone. Following this lead, police went to the Anping Hotel in Quanzhou to verify the identity of this person. They found out that the woman's name was Tang Min, from Xinjiang City, Hubei Province. Years ago, she had business dealings with Hengan Group. According to those familiar with the situation, Tang Min had been living in Guangdong for the past few years, but had suddenly appeared in Xinjiang. She had stayed at the Anping Hotel for several days and notably left the hotel on the afternoon of the murders. Her current whereabouts were unknown. As a result, Xinjiang police immediately requested assistance from the Hubei police. However, something unexpected happened. That same morning, another director from Hengan Group received a phone call from an unknown woman who kept asking about Wu Shijie's whereabouts. When he inquired about her identity, she abruptly hung up. Later, police traced the call to the reception desk of the Nanhu Hotel in Fuzhou. Realizing the urgency, Xinjiang police promptly requested support from Fuzhou police. Unfortunately, by the time they arrived at the hotel, the woman had already left. After further investigation, police confirmed that the caller was indeed Tang Min. Why was she so desperate to contact Wu Shijie? Could she be linked to the case? While the police were still deliberating, they received another call from Anping Hotel, reporting that Tang Min had returned and was once again inquiring about Wu Shijie's whereabouts. Upon receiving this information, police rushed to the hotel and brought Tang Min in for questioning. She claimed she had arranged to meet Wu Shijie in Fuzhou, but upon arrival she couldn't contact him, so she started asking around. After a thorough investigation, police concluded that she had no involvement in the case, and once again the investigation reached a dead end. To gather more leads, the police not only posted notices requesting public assistance, but also increased the reward to 200,000 yuan for any valuable information. During the following investigations, the task force received thousands of anonymous tips. While hundreds of related cases were solved, none provided any clues regarding this high-profile murder case. Investigators were growing increasingly anxious. Just then, a man walked into the police station, claiming he might know something about the killer. According to this man, the previous night, while eating at a roadside stall, he was robbed by 3 fellow townsmen. They stole the mere 20 yuan he had. However, the next day, he saw the same men suddenly flashing a large stack of cash. Even the stall owner found it suspicious and asked them where they had gotten so much money. One of them casually boasted that they had just pulled off something big in Anhai. As he was about to reveal more, another accomplice nudged him, silencing him immediately. With this new lead, police rushed to the food stall to inquire about the 3 men. They discovered that one of them was named Huang Yuxuan, who lived nearby. However, when the police arrived at his home, he had already fled. Nevertheless, in his room, they found evidence that closely matched the crime scene. This further solidified suspicions against Huang Yuxuan. After days of tracking, on August 17, 1999, 9 days after the murder, Huang Yuxuan was arrested. Initially, police believed they had made a major breakthrough, but surprisingly, Huang and his accomplices were not the true perpetrators of the Wu Shijie family murder. It turned out that the money they had was from blackmailing an elderly man. Once again, the case hit a dead end. 1 month had passed, and the case not only caused a stir in the country, but also affected the stock market of Hengan Group in Hong Kong. For this reason, Hengan Group increased the reward by another 1 million yuan, raising the total bounty to 2 million yuan, an enormous amount of money. Many people, tempted by the reward, began to come forward. Among them, a tip-off from a man named Xu Lusi in Guangdong caught the attention of the investigation team. He reported that 2 men, one named Chen Xiaogang and another called Tom Hua, had traveled to Anhai, Xinjiang in August that year and were involved in a major crime. Xu Lusi stated that Chen Xiaogang had sold 3 mobile phones, coincidentally matching the 3 phones missing from Wu Shijie's house after the EI murder. Moreover, Chen Xiaogang had a history of robbery. Given the case's severity and the importance of this lead, the director of Hengan decided to personally travel to Guangdong to meet the informant. On September 25, 1999, based on the information provided by Xu Lusi, the police ambushed a barbershop frequented by Chen Xiaogang and successfully arrested him. However, Chen Xiaogang refused to confess to any crime. Eventually, under police persuasion, Chen Xiaogang admitted to committing some robberies but denied involvement in Wu Shijie's case. After comparing fingerprints, the police eliminated him as a suspect, and once again, the case hit a dead. And while the police were at an impasse, the victim's daughter-in-law, Yang Mian, provided a crucial clue. She reported receiving a phone call from an unknown man who claimed to be the murderer of Wu Shijie's entire family. The caller demanded 1 million yuan in exchange for revealing the identity of the person who hired him. This unexpected call reignited the investigation. Since only someone familiar with Wu Shijie's family would know their phone number, the police believed the caller must have had a close connection to them. Through investigation, the police traced the call to Xiamen. Officers from Xinjiang immediately traveled to Xiamen and waited near the public phone booth where the call was made. Meanwhile, another team tapped the phone line at Wu Shijie's residence. The following day, the phone rang again, but this time, the suspect had changed locations. Phone records showed that the caller had also contacted a man named Chen Dingbang. Based on this lead, investigators quickly located Chen Dingbang. According to him, the man who called him was named Yu Hongkai. The police immediately launched an investigation and discovered that Yu Hongkai and Wu Shijie were from the same village, Lingshui Village, Anhai Town. Furthermore, Yu Hongkai was a childhood friend of Wu Shijie's son, and their homes were less than 100 meters apart. The police went to Lingshui Village and successfully collected Yu Hongkai's fingerprints. Oh wait, comparison confirmed that his fingerprints matched those found at the crime scene. The mastermind behind the case had finally been revealed. Investigating Yu Hongkai's social connections, the police discovered he had been in frequent contact with a security guard named Chen Yongkan at a factory in Shenzhen. The police headed to Shenzhen and interrogated Chen Yongkan. Initially, he refused to provide any information about Yu Hongkai, but under police pressure, he eventually admitted to forging documents for him. Currently, Yu Hongkai was using the alias Lin Xiaodong and was hiding in Xinjiang, Hebei Province. On January 17, 2000, Xinjiang police once again traveled to Xinjiang. With the cooperation of local authorities, they quickly located Yu Hongkai's hiding place. On the morning of January 18th, the police arrested Yu Hongkai, the suspect in the brutal murder case. After 126 days of investigation, spanning 16 provinces and 86 counties, the Special Task Force finally apprehended the killer. Upon hearing the news, Yang Mian was in shock. Yu Hongkai had been her husband's childhood friend, and their families had been very close. Why would he murder her entire family? Yu Hongkai was born in 1971. Due to his family's poverty, he dropped out of school at 15 and began working at a private auto repair shop. He worked diligently, and within a few years, he became one of the top technicians in the workshop. By then, he was earning over 2,000 yuan per month, a substantial salary at the time. Yu Hongkai's biggest dream was to establish a publicly listed company like Wu Shijie. To achieve this, by the age of 22, he had opened his own auto repair shop. Initially, he ran everything himself, maintaining strict organization, and within a few years he was earning several 100,000 yuan annually, but his success was short-lived. As Yu Hongkai accumulated wealth, he grew arrogant and delegated all his responsibilities to his employees while indulging in a lavish lifestyle. Unbeknownst to him, while his workers were skilled, they lacked managerial expertise. As expected, the business deteriorated, and eventually, his shop was forced to close. The closure of his business was a severe blow to Yu Hongkai. He believed that his company's failure was due to an unjust fate, while Wu Shijie continued to prosper. Convinced that fate had been unfair to him, Yu Hongkai developed a sense of resentment and the intention to rob and kill. On the morning of August 9, 1999, Yu Hongkai arrived at Wu Shijie's house carrying a fruit knife and a roll of transparent tape. Wu Shijie's wife, Ta Xiaofan, opened the door. Since Yu Hongkai was a frequent visitor, she suspected nothing and let him in. The moment he stepped inside, he revealed his true colors. Brandishing the knife, he threatened Ta Xiaofan, demanding all her valuables, then strangled her to death. He stole over 6,000 yuan in 2 gold items. As he was about to leave, Wu Shijie's 2 daughters unexpectedly returned home. Yu Hongkai hid behind the door, waiting for them to enter, before forcing them to tie themselves up at knife point. Then he mercilessly killed them. Just as he finished, Wu Shijie returned. Yu Hongkai repeated his tactic, holding the knife to his throat. Seeing his son's childhood friend threatening him, Wu Shijie pleaded, "If you need money, I can give it to you." But by then, Yu Hongkai had lost all rationality. He believed that whether he killed one person or 10, the punishment would be the same. Initially, he attempted to strangle Wu Shijie, but the victim struggled too much, forcing Yu Hongkai to stab him 3 times. Before leaving, he deliberately cut the gas line in the house. Given his close ties to the Wu family and the brutal nature of the crime, the police never suspected him. However, greed was his downfall. When he learned about Hengan Group's 1.2 million yuan reward for information, Yu Hongkai contacted Yang Mian, intending to extort a large sum from her. In the end, his own greed led to his arrest. Thus, the shocking Xinjiang case, which had made headlines both domestically and internationally, was finally solved. Yu Hongkai was sentenced to death, bringing his life of crime to an end. This case demonstrates just how terrifying human jealousy can be. It can drive someone without any personal vendetta to commit murder, even to the extent of taking an entire family's lives, all for one reason: envy.
Around 8 p.m. on November 29th, 2004, a piercing scream echoed from beneath the doctoral dormitory at Beijing Institute of Technology. Police cars and ambulances arrived one after another, and the entire campus descended into chaos with the sounds of people, vehicles, and cries. What had happened? It all began with a social media friend request sent to a young man named En Jiaowei. En Jiaowei was the son of a poor farming family from Fujian City, Xinjiang Province, China. His parents were illiterate, yet they held a strong belief that their son could change the bleak future of their family. They poured every penny they earned into his education, hoping he would achieve great things. And indeed, En Jiaowei didn't disappoint them. Through his relentless efforts, he was admitted to Wuhan University of Technology in 1996, becoming the first university student in his village. Not only did he bring pride to his parents, but his reputation also spread beyond the country. After graduation, En Jiaowei was accepted into Beijing Institute of Technology with the highest score in his field, becoming a promising graduate student. His future seemed bright, promising success for himself, his family, and his nation. But life rarely goes as planned. This dream ended abruptly and unexpectedly, leaving everyone in shock. It all started with a meeting between En Jiaowei and a girl. While studying at Wuhan University of Technology, En Jiaowei met a girl named Yang Xiaoli. Struck by love at first sight, the two quickly entered a romantic relationship, even vowing to spend their lives together. Yang Xiaoli placed her full trust in him. After the summer break, during their university years, En Jiaowei moved to Beijing Institute of Technology to continue his postgraduate studies while Yang Xiaoli stayed in Wuhan to work. Once Yang Xiaoli found a stable job, she set aside a portion of her earnings to help pay for En Jiaowei's tuition as his family was too poor. Despite the geographical distance, they maintained their relationship through calls and occasional video chats. One night in July 2003, after chatting with his girlfriend, En Jiaowei was preparing to rest when he received a friend request. He accepted and exchanged a few words with his new online acquaintance. It was a stranger girl, but he quickly noticed they shared many interesting commonalities. This sparked a sense of excitement for En Jiaowei during their conversations. From then on, whenever he went online, he would chat with this girl, sometimes for hours at a time. As they grew closer, the girl revealed her real name, Wang Xiaoxing. She had just graduated from university and was working in heating system design in Beijing. En Jiaowei also introduced himself, upon learning that he was a researcher involved in major national scientific projects, including the 4th-generation main battle tank, and had won several prestigious awards. Wang Xiaoxing was deeply impressed. She was completely captivated by his talent and grew increasingly fond of this resilient and accomplished young man. After 3 months of chatting, Wang Xiaoxing took the initiative to suggest meeting in person. Since both were in Beijing, meeting was not difficult. In November 2003, they met for the first time. However, En Jiaowei was not charmed by Wang Xiaoxing. He weighed Wang Xiaoxing against his girlfriend, who was intelligent, beautiful, and financially supporting his education back in his hometown. Compared to his girlfriend, Wang Xiaoxing seemed ordinary in every aspect, not worth betraying his longtime partner. Because of this, he kept a clear distance during their meeting. On the other hand, Wang Xiaoxing was completely captivated by the young, promising 26-year-old researcher. After their meeting, Wang Xiaoxing contacted In Jiaowei more frequently and confessed that she had fallen in love with him. Although In Jiaowei did not have feelings for Wang Xiaoxing, he found that chatting with her helped relieve the loneliness and pressure of living alone. As a result, he continued talking to Wang Xiaoxing daily, unaware that this seemingly harmless action would lead to a catastrophic turn in his life. In December, the two met again. During their dinner, both drank heavily and became intoxicated. What was bound to happen eventually did. They spent the night together and engaged in a physical relationship at In Jiaowei's rented apartment. The next morning, once sober, In Jiaowei deeply regretted his actions. He decided to cut off contact with Wang Xiaoxing and end their interactions. However, for Wang Xiaoxing, such intimacy was far from simple. She had deep feelings for In Jiaowei and had even told her parents about having a doctoral boyfriend. Her parents were thrilled and eager for her to bring him home to meet them. For Wang Xiaoxing, In Jiaowei's abrupt abandonment after just one night was not only humiliating in front of her parents, but also made her feel emotionally deceived. This plunged her into a deep depression. She locked herself in her room for days, neglecting her work, which angered her parents greatly. Determined to confront the man responsible for their daughter's misery, Wang Xiaoxing's parents decided to take action. Her father called In Jiaowei, accusing him of leading his daughter on emotionally. He even brought up their intimate relationship, threatening to ruin In Jiaowei's reputation if he refused to marry his daughter. In Jiaowei, who had a very high sense of pride, was infuriated by these threats, but felt powerless to retaliate. Under pressure, In Jiaowei was forced to continue his relationship with Wang Xiaoxing. However, the forced connection only exacerbated the incompatibility and tension between them. Their frequent arguments confirmed his belief that he neither liked nor could marry her. Hoping to end things, In Jiaowei began picking fights with Wang Xiaoxing, expecting her to leave him. But Wang Xiaoxing, consumed by her obsession, stubbornly clung to him despite their unhappy relationship. Eventually overwhelmed by her persistent pursuit, In Jiaowei changed his phone number and severed all contact with Wang Xiaoxing. Still, he could not escape the constant fear that Wang Xiaoxing's family might one day expose his past. Each passing day became a relentless battle with stress and anxiety. He suffered from severe insomnia, often pacing the dormitory hallway for hours at night, unable to sleep. This left him utterly exhausted when he went to the lab the following day. From 2002 onward, his diary began to reflect increasingly negative thoughts. Even in the academic field, he once excelled in Jiaowei lost interest and motivation. When his advisor noticed his deteriorating state and expressed concern, he simply attributed it to exhaustion, revealing nothing more. Nearly a year had passed, and In Jiaowei had changed drastically. Once an enthusiastic and energetic researcher, he was now perpetually exhausted with lifeless eyes and no interest in continuing his studies. However, Wang Xiaoxing was unwilling to let him go. Like an obsessive shadow, she found a way to obtain In Jiaowei's new phone number and immediately requested a meeting. When In Jiaowei received her call, he realized there was no escaping her. At around 8 p.m. on November 29th, 2004, he agreed to meet Wang Xiaoxing at the student dormitory complex of the Beijing Institute of Technology. Wang Xiaoxing entered In Jiaowei's room, sat on a chair, and started flipping through his notebook. Suddenly, she felt a hand tighten around her neck from behind. When she realized the assailant was In Jiaowei, it was too late. He strangled Wang Xiaoxing to death without giving her a chance to say a word. Afterward, In Jiaowei dragged Wang Xiaoxing's body to the dormitory balcony. A classmate living next door accidentally witnessed the scene and shouted in horror. "What are you doing?" In Jiaowei calmly replied, "Let her be free," and then threw Wang Xiaoxing's body off the balcony. The classmate tried to grab her, but was too late. Wang Xiaoxing had already fallen. In Jiaowei then attempted to flee down the stairs, but was restrained by the classmate. It ultimately took 4 people to subdue him, as his strength was formidable. At that point, In Jiaowei appeared utterly deranged, refusing to speak a word. When his advisor arrived at the dormitory upon hearing the news, he still seemed oblivious to the gravity of the situation. Casually, he said to his advisor, "I haven't finished the project you assigned me." In a state of mental collapse, Jiahui even accepted an apple from a classmate and began eating it with a vacant, zombie-like stare. His advisor offered him some water, saying, "Stay calm. There's no obstacle you can't overcome." Regaining some awareness, Jiahui sighed and replied, "This time I can't overcome it." When the police arrived, Jiahui confessed to the entire murder. From that moment on, Jiahui's tragic life came to an official end, leaving behind profound regret among his teachers, friends, family, and neighbors, especially his devoted girlfriend, who tirelessly worked to send him money for his education. One classmate commented, Jiahui was a gentle and incredibly kind person. He never argued or clashed with anyone. It's hard to believe he did something like this. His roommate added, Jiahui was very studious and didn't have any hobbies aside from occasionally reading novels. He was very reserved and introverted. Even his advisor admitted, his relationships with others were always harmonious. Although quiet, Jiahui maintained outstanding academic performance. After enrolling in the doctoral program, he was selected by his peers to be a student supervisor in 2003. Given his family's poor financial situation, his professors arranged for him to work in the laboratory to earn some extra money. Despite his busy schedule, Jiahui remained diligent in his work. At 9:30 a.m. on July 23, 2005, Jiahui was summoned to the First Intermediate People's Court of Beijing. Following the trial, the prosecutor revealed a shocking conclusion. A forensic psychiatric assessment conducted by the Beijing Forensic Psychiatry Evaluation Committee determined that Jiahui suffered from mental disorders, including psychosis, depression, hallucinations, and a loss of control over his behavior. In other words, Jiahui was considered to have diminished capacity at the time of the crime, which significantly influenced the sentencing. However, Jiahui's lawyer was not surprised by this conclusion, as his journal revealed severe mental health issues. During his postgraduate years, Jiahui participated in several national scientific research projects and even won awards. Yet in his journal, he repeatedly referred to himself as a useless person. In one entry, Jiahui expressed deep anxiety about his inadequacies, believing himself to be a failure as a doctoral candidate. On another occasion, after receiving a call from his parents back in his hometown, encouraging him to study hard, he described himself in his journal that day as someone without a future, incapable of repaying his parents for their sacrifices. Jiahui's mental state remained overwhelmingly negative. A month before the incident, his depression became particularly severe. His journal entries during that period revealed escalating despair, frequent mentions of dropping out, and even suicidal thoughts. In the courtroom, Jiahui sat on the defendant's bench with a vacant stare, avoiding any eye contact with his parents who were standing nearby. When questioned by the prosecutor, Jiahui appeared confused, at times offering incoherent responses. He occasionally bit his lower lip and remained silent. Finally, the First Intermediate People's Court of Beijing declared, "The criminal facts are clear and the evidence is compelling and sufficient. Jiahui committed intentional homicide, which warrants severe punishment. However, due to the defendant's diminished capacity, he is eligible for leniency under the law." The court sentences Jiahui to life imprisonment. Additionally, Jiahui and his family are ordered to compensate the victim's parents a total of 453,200 yuan in damages. Although the case concluded, but the tragedy continued to cast a shadow over both families and the futures of two promising young individuals, particularly Jiahui. All the hopes and trust of his family, friends, and teachers were shattered in a moment of weakness. This tragedy stemmed from ambiguous relationships formed on social media. While the events cannot be undone, but they serve as a reminder. Social media may be virtual but personal information. Emotions and human lives are very real. Clear boundaries are essential to prevent the misuse of social platforms and avoid similar heartbreaking incidents in the future.